Most people can get rich if you do take the time to do so. And if you do buy things like index funds and maybe you throw a property or two in there as well, like you can get rich the sensible way, but it does take work and it is hard initially. It is really hard when you're like seeing people be like, well, you could be a millionaire in 100 days if you do this. And it's hard to compete with that sometimes.
What challenges have you faced around like normalising conversations regarding like financial literacy, especially like among the younger generations?
There's also this belief around like, that's not for me, investing is for rich people, money is evil, money is bad. If I want property, then I will be like, that's for evil people only. Like that's been quite hard to talk about too.
Outside of your capital allocation to like, let's say property, shares, etc., are you currently generating income with what you're doing online?
Yeah, I made like $200,000 last financial year.
What are your thoughts on crypto?
I buy a little bit of Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I've got like $30,000. So it's like a small percentage of my overall portfolio, but I do buy a little bit of it. I bought it back in like 2021 when it dropped, so it's like doubled since then.
Someone listening to this, right, who seeking financial independence, pretty uneducated around just investment. What are some of the steps that this person should take to start regaining control of their life?
Great and interesting.
I want to rewind back to August 1, 2020, to your first Instagram post.
Wow, you scrolled all the way back to find the date.
Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah.
But it was worth it.
Amazing.
Do you mind if I read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, my name is Tash and I'm 22. I love learning about personal finance and have decided to document my journey building wealth while still enjoying life and doing the things I love. I'm so passionate about removing the stigma around money conversations and I'm excited to share my journey. Thanks to My Wealth Diary for the inspiration. I wanted to know, like, firstly, what was going on in your world at that time? And secondly, what specifically inspired you to start documenting your journey?
I'm glad I was like so onto it back then. I didn't remember writing that exactly, but it's kind of like the same as what I'm doing now. So it's so cool that it is so similar. Back then I was working in a group home. I was a support worker. I was doing like lots of overnight shifts with people with disabilities. It was during COVID, so I was working ridiculous hours and I was kind of investing on the side, kind of enjoyed making money, kind of enjoyed just working as well. And I just decided to start posting one day. I saw people in the US doing it, but no one in Australia. And I just did it like so randomly at work because I was so bored at work. We did like 64-hour shifts because you got to sleep over as well. So you had so much free time. And it really took off after that. But yeah, crazy that I had so much of like a direction back then.
Yeah.
I remember it being like that. That's amazing.
But what was it that inspired you to be like, you mentioned that obviously no one was doing it, but was there something specific that like motivated you to go, hey, I want to start documenting my journey?
I was always the person people would ask about like, oh, like how are you saving for this? Or how do you have money for that? Like I was always traveling during uni and I was always like going away. I was really open about why I wasn't spending money on things. Like if someone was like, do you want to come out to this thing? I'd be like, no, don't want to. I'm doing something else instead. So I was always really like direct with that stuff. And I found people just didn't really know about money. They didn't really talk about money. I was always the person being like, what do you earn? Like, what are your goals? How did you afford that house? And people didn't like that. It's just like wanting a space where I could talk about that stuff because I kind of was like the money friend already.
What did you study at uni?
Occupational therapy.
Okay, interesting. Take me back to when you were 18, to your first investment.
Yes.
What sparked, interest to, invest at such a young age, right? And I guess furthermore to that, like what did you invest in?
I bought 4 units of IVV, so it's an S&P 500 ETF, thanks to Dad. He told me to buy that, which is a great suggestion back then. I didn't get it for ages though. I was like, what is an ETF? What is an index fund? Why aren't more people doing this? Like what's the catch here? There must be something wrong or everyone would be doing it. But I guess the initial spark was like I knew rich people invested. Like I knew that to make money you had to invest it and do something with it. And I couldn't afford to buy a house back then, unfortunately. So like $1,000 into investments seemed like a better and easier option. I was always interested in money. Like there wasn't one point where I was like, cool, I'm going to be an investor now. Like I'd always saved my pocket money. I always tried to like make more money in terms of getting another job or like working penalty rates or getting like overtime. So it's just like kind of the next step there.
Was there any books at that age, at 18, that that inspired you? Any people, like any mentors, anything happening?
Just Googling stuff.
I love it.
Like
just
Googling.
Google.
Yeah, I read The Barefoot Investor back when he was telling you to buy $5,000 worth of AFIC, which wasn't the best advice ever, I don't think. But I didn't do that. No, I was just like, oh, well, what else should I buy? My parents bought property. My dad works in gold mines. He was like kind of more into like the mining stocks rather than ETFs and index funds. But you can Google anything that you want. And I saw lots of people in the US kind of talking about like Roth IRAs and the S&P 500. So just like Googled stuff and then went from there.
Love that.
Yeah.
Money is a taboo topic, right, among people? Like, what challenges, right, have you faced around like normalising conversations, regarding like financial literacy, especially like among the younger generations?
Yeah, I found it really hard because I grew up in a family where they openly spoke about money. They talked about like their pay rises. We were moving countries to get so my dad could get a pay rise. They talked about their mortgages. They talked about why we couldn't have certain things as well. I remember I really wanted Foxtel and they were like, no, if we have Foxtel then we can't afford like this holiday or something else. They were very open about that. They just I knew everything about their finances. Nothing was a secret. So when I found out most people weren't like that, I was like, oh, this is so interesting and so different. So trying to normalize that you can talk about money. And not talking about money just keeps you behind. That's been really interesting, really challenging. There's also those beliefs around that's not for me. Investing is for rich people. Money is evil. Money is bad. If I want property, then I will be that's for evil people only. That's been quite hard to talk about too. But if people aren't even willing to talk about basic things, it's really hard to move forward from that as well. I find so much shame and guilt a lot of people have around money. They are so shameful about their debt or where they are, or they feel behind. They just don't want to deal with it and they just bury their heads in the sand.
Why do you think people are shameful around just money and
just made to feel, I don't know, it's the world we're in has made us feel a bit shameful about it. You see so much wealth around, or you see people who are really struggling and it's hard to see people just living everyday normal lives. Employers benefit of us not talking about our money. They don't want you talking behind your backs and being like, oh, well, you pay Fred more than me, so I want a pay rise. They don't want you to talk about it. Yeah, I don't know why else, but it's just interesting that it's ended up that way.
Do you think if you didn't grow up in a family that was so open about, finances, that you'd be doing what you're doing today?
I don't know. Possibly not. It's a big question. Yeah, I don't know. I think I am very I don't know. I take action when I decide that I want something anyway. So maybe I would have found my way around and been interested in it, but it's so hard to say. Maybe not. If I'd grown up in a family that was struggling and had lots of personal debt and didn't show me what was possible. But again, I still had limiting beliefs around how much I could earn because my parents work regular jobs. They don't work for themselves. So I always had an idea of you can earn maybe a few $100,000 and that's it. And that's your income ceiling forever. But then I kind of started meeting people with businesses or who worked commission jobs and realized that you could do so much more. So I've still moved past that, but I don't know. It's so hard to say.
How did you break through, if you can recall, some of those limiting beliefs? Because I had them as well, and they can be challenging.
Yeah, I'm still kind of doing it now. I'm being wow, this is cool. I can do more stuff and I can keep growing things and you can make money if you want to make money. I had being online is really interesting because you get a lot of feedback all the time about what you're doing. And a lot of people hate property investors and they think that's completely evil. So that's been a really interesting one, trying to juggle do I want to buy more property? Should I not buy more property? Is it actually really evil? And seeing where I sit on that. So it's been an interesting one. I'm going to buy more property. I have gotten to that stage, yes. But yeah, it's interesting trying to unpack those beliefs for yourself and decide why people are saying that and how it actually works in the world.
When I scrolled back to that first post, the second post was your net worth.
Yeah.
I love how you just opened up about that. Very rarely do you see that online. I guess a young female being vulnerable, having the humility just to post that. And it seems like over the years you've built up this incredible net worth now for yourself. So congratulations.
Thank you.
What have been some of the sacrifices? Some of the choices, you've had to make to be diligent and disciplined, to get where you are today?
Yeah, back then it was just being really frugal. I kind of found it a bit like a game almost. I wanted to save as much as I could. So I was very value driven with my spending. I wouldn't spend anything at home if I could avoid it. I wouldn't go out for dinner. I wouldn't go out for drinks. I wouldn't do any of that stuff. I'd have people over, or I would go to really cheap places and pick the cheapest things on the menu. But then I would spend money on travel. So I was traveling every uni break. I went to 35 countries, which was really fun. Yeah.
Wow.
I saved to buy my apartment, which was amazing. But I was very I knew what I was doing and why. So it was easy to say no to things. Some people thought I was really frugal. Mum was you should probably spend more money. But I would just compare it to a day in Thailand. Why would I spend $30 on a few drinks if I can spend $30 on a whole day in accommodation in Thailand? That was kind of my comparison. So it didn't really feel like sacrifices back then. It felt like I was just choosing to do something else. And I never really viewed it as sacrifices either.
What about your friends? Were they saving and
We were all uni students. So everyone was poor anyway. It's the perfect time to save. It would be harder now, but I've got friends who are business owners and make a lot more money, and I've got friends who are just working average jobs as well. That discrepancy is a lot harder. But when you're at uni, everyone is poor, and most people are poor and trying to get by. They're not there's not that huge disparity in wealth.
Wouldn't it be unreal that, I want to talk through social media soon, but at school, these conversations don't exist around, money management, like just basic financial literacy that you get exposed to when you leave school, like you don't hear about, right? Like, did you find that challenging, like post leaving school, trying to work it all out?
No, because it's been my whole life. Like I've always been interested in it. And I started saving and I built that saving mindset back when I was 14? I got my first job and I was saving money back then. So it wasn't like I'd spent everything, all of my pocket money and then got to a point and was like, oh, now I need to learn to save. I had like that pattern already. And then you can Google whatever you want. And it's been 9 years now since I was 18 almost. Yeah. So it's crazy to think sure, it's not like I didn't go and learn it in 6 months. I've learned it over this whole journey as well. And I think people think you need to go and learn everything in 1 week, but it's not like that. So it wasn't overwhelming because it just happened as life happened. There was no huge rush to go and learn how to buy property and learn how to invest straight away. And I was lucky because my parents openly spoke about their property journey. So I knew about mortgage brokers and I knew about what you needed to do to actually buy a property, and I knew about deposits and LMI and whether you could get a guarantor or stuff like that. I knew about it anyway just from being around people talking about it.
That's impressive. What age did you know about that?
Well, I've just spoken about it my whole life. I don't know. Yeah. I remember I tell the story all the time, but my dad was talking to his friends about shares back when I was around the age of 10. And I asked what shares were and he was trying to explain it with a tomato sauce bottle. And he was like, you and your friends will share this and you want to buy 1/10 and your friend will buy another 1/10. And back then I was like, that's so dumb. Why would you not just buy a whole tomato sauce bottle? But even back then I started getting exposed to those ideas that you could invest in things and you could share investments with your friends, however that worked back then. But it wasn't, not just oh, you're 18 now, here's all the stuff you have to learn. I already kind of knew of the concepts beforehand, even if it didn't make sense.
Have you thought about being a buyer's agent?
No. I think I have lots of ideas, but no. I think maybe I want to be a mortgage broker one day, but then that's a fleeting idea sometimes.
You've built this incredible brand online. You've got fantastic content. You're very disciplined with how you push it out. You've got an amazing tribe of people that obviously follow you, engage with your content. What type of impact do you feel like you are creating towards your audience? And do you get specific feedback from your audience that reach out to you and maybe highlight to you some form of transformation or win that they've gone through?
Yeah, it's positive and negative. Sometimes it feels like I'm not helping a lot of people because it can be overwhelmingly negative. But then I do get those messages where it is I've invested for the first time now. I bought my house because you taught me how to save. I've been following you for a few years now and I've got $100,000 invested. I bought my property. I left my partner and now I'm independent by myself, all that kind of stuff as well. So there's heaps of positive messages of people, even just being I didn't know it was possible for me. I didn't know you could start with $5. I thought it was for rich finance bros who are off trading with their multiple computer screens. So I still do see those messages. But then there are the negative ones that come with social media too.
How do you deal with trolls?
I don't mind trolls too much. If it is stuff that I expect, I know if I post about how much money I have, there'll be comments daddy's money, you're a silly girl, go back to the kitchen, that stuff still comes up, which is wild. But then it's stuff where someone criticizes me for something where I'm am I in the wrong for that? Do I need to think about that again? Do I need to take another stance? It kind of gets to me and that gets a bit exhausting. But the outright trolls, it's their life isn't going too well if they feel the need to do that. And I feel a bit bad for them and they've got a lot to deal with themselves. But it is hard just to see what some of the beliefs are of people around. When you see a dad who has a daughter in his profile picture and then he's commenting the gender pay gap isn't real and all that kind of stuff and men should be paid more. I feel bad for future generations and for that, but it's not really aimed at me too much.
Someone listening to this right now who doesn't have a social media profile like you but has a voice, wants to start sharing some content that they care about, how important do you think it is based on your journey with going live online, it is to start building a personal brand?
So important. For whatever you want to do, just start sharing. I feel you get so many opportunities no matter what you want to do just by sharing and just by learning how to share and learning how to articulate your ideas as well. I think a lot of, even if you just want to work a job and be employed, a lot of employers look for those skills where you have taken initiative and you have researched something and built something yourself. So I think it's so important to share. And you've probably seen that as well. How important has it been for your business?
It's important.
Yeah.
It's very important. I only started growing a personal brand and putting time into it about 7 months ago.
Really?
I've always built businesses.
Because you're everywhere.
I know, but I've always built businesses but never focused on developing content for myself.
How many followers do you have now? Heaps.
I've got about just over 18,000.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
I only started recently.
Yeah, crazy.
It's I agree with you. It's Jack Henderson, who you guys jammed recently with, or both together. He said to me about 4 years ago, because he came through my program, he was like, "You got to get online, start building a brand." I was like, "No," and I was very naive then. And in retrospect, he started back then, and I do regret it in terms of just not getting started.
Mm-hmm. Why didn't you get started back then?
I don't think I saw the vision of how important it is.
Did you see the stigma behind it too, where people are like, oh, that's a bit silly and that's just like not serious. People won't take you seriously for doing that, or more just like it's not worth it. There's Facebook ads and other things.
I think my belief system, I think I wasn't ready to go live. I just didn't. I don't think I had the courage.
Yeah, interesting.
To be honest.
Yeah. I'm glad I started really early because I think if I knew what I know now, I probably wouldn't have done it. It would have been like, oh, it's not worth the effort, or like, oh, this is like going to be pretty hectic, or like, I don't know if I want to like see all those comments, I guess. I'm glad I did it when I was young and I didn't know what was coming.
Yeah, it's important. I want to talk about your podcasts, the Get Rich Slow Club. Yeah?
Yeah.
So that emphasizes the notion of like long-term investment planning, right? Why do you think that resonates more compared to like the Get Rich Quick schemes?
I don't think it resonates more with everyone. Like people want the Get Rich Quick scheme and it's really hard to compete online when there are people being like, you can make $1 million if you invest in this crypto, or if you start this dropshipping business, or if you do all this stuff, and if you pay me $10,000, I'll teach you how to be a millionaire. Like that stuff does really well and it is hard to compete with that. But I'm trying to be reasonable and show people that like most people can get rich if you do take the time to do so. And if you do buy things like index funds and maybe you throw a property or two in there as well, like you can get rich the sensible way, but it does take work and it is hard initially. But like I just want to be like, I don't know if sensible is the right word, but like teach people the right way to invest. And you can go and try other things if you want, but it is really hard when you're like seeing people be like, well, you could be a millionaire in 100 days if you do this. And it's hard to compete with that sometimes.
Have you met people along your journey who have made money, you know, relatively quickly, like compared to what you would consider, you know, normal time frame?
Yeah, definitely people with businesses. Yeah.
Just like good businesses.
Yeah, like it's once you have a business, you could do so much more than getting like 7 to 10% a year on your index funds. And then it gives you the power to buy more properties and stuff like that. But yeah, it's most people who have started their own business or they work in a commission-based role, like lots of property people who are getting massive commissions on selling things.
What are your thoughts on crypto?
I buy a little bit of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like I say a little bit, I've got like $30,000. So it's like a small percentage of my overall portfolio, but I do buy a little bit of it.
Do you think the returns on, let's say, Bitcoin compared to like, you know, ASX or S&P?
They've been better, but I timed it well. I bought it back in like 2021 when it dropped. So it's like doubled since then, which has been good, but like not over the long term. Like you have to balance it. Like it is a risky speculative investment. It doesn't give me income like my shares do. It has done well for now, but it might not always do well.
I got into it recently, about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago?
4 weeks ago.
Okay, good timing.
Before it started rallying.
Good timing, yeah.
Yeah, and I was always skeptical.
Why did you buy it?
I've always bought property. So I've been, that's just the asset class that I buy.
Why?
I just think it's something that I've always done.
Why?
I think the first investment I made was property. And then it just, you know, I was in real estate.
Yeah.
So that was just the thing to do.
You're in the world, yeah.
And so share market, I got burned a bit. I made some bad investments when I was like 20 and then I just, for whatever reason, didn't, you know, reinvestigate that. But since I've started learning more about Bitcoin and taking the time to really understand it, I've started to appreciate it more. And when you look at it, I feel like it's very volatile, but everyone that I've spoken to that's lost has sold.
Yes.
It's unequivocally the most common theme I've seen around.
It's like that with any investment. You don't lose out until you sell.
That's true.
And only if you don't have a solid plan. Like if you're buying a random speculative company and you don't know why you're buying it and that drops to zero, like that really sucks for you. But mostly it's people who buy something that should be doing well in the future, panic and then sell it.
I went on to ChatGPT. I'll tell you now.
Perfect.
So sorry, I'm just going to put that out for some reason.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. Their light's going up for some reason.
Okay. All good. Okay, where's my ChatGPT?
Sorry.
That's okay. So I'll start again?
Yeah, whatever question you're on.
Okay. This hopefully will just flow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went on to ChatGPT and I said, how has Bitcoin performed as an asset class over the last 10 years compared to other asset classes? It said over the past decade, Bitcoin has significantly outperformed traditional asset classes despite its notable volatility. From 2014 to 2024, Bitcoin achieved an approximate total return of 7,716%, translating to an average annual return of around 771%. In comparison to the S&P 500 index, representing US large cap stocks, delivering a total return of approximately 193% over the same period, averaging about 19% annually. I won't read the rest, but I feel like if you can just hold Bitcoin, not look at it, not get, caught up in all the craziness, I feel like in, like 15, 20 years, it's going to be really
Maybe.
good.
I think there's a little bit of danger of only comparing the last 10 years of returns because
Okay.
we've seen like stock market bubbles and stuff before where things will do well for 10, 20 years and then crash completely. But like it has done well. It might do well in the future. I think if you're like looking outside of Australia and being like, how are other countries using it and how is it used there where like their governments aren't as stable? Because we don't really value it as much in Australia. We've got a stable government. Our currency is stable. We don't really need it. But seeing it in like, was it Venezuela? Where were they using
Yes.
it? Venezuela, yeah. Like it's got uses, which I think is good. And returns hopefully will be great as well, but it's hard to say too.
What do you care about in terms of investment, like with capital allocation? Like what are you very passionate about?
Keeping things simple and easy and not like stepping outside of what you know as well. Like I think you should stretch your comfort zone for sure, but don't try and be like a day trader and like trade all these companies if you know nothing about them. Don't go and buy like random properties because you saw one person talk about it online and you're like, yes, cool, I'm going to buy this off the plan apartment because someone sold me the dream. Like don't do stuff like that. I want it to be like easy and sustainable and actually let you do stuff with your life as well. Like I never wanted to feel really suffocated by my investments. I never wanted to feel really trapped either. Like I wanted to build a life of freedom pretty early on. So I have like a possibly geared apartment. I know that's a no-no for some people, but it's been doing really well for me and it let me quit my job so I could do this stuff full time and it gave me the security to do that. Shares are great for me. Index funds are great for me because they pay me dividends. I don't need to do anything with them. They just sit there and they grow, which is fun.
The property, like what was the process involved for you to, obviously you were exposed, you said around, growing up around mortgages and LMI and mortgage brokers, et cetera. But in terms of like, researching area to buy, negotiation, all that type of stuff, dealing with real estate agents, which is the fun part.
Yes. It was interesting because I was only 21, 22 back then and they weren't taking me very seriously. Like I took my grandma with me because she liked to go look at properties for fun. And they would always talk to her or talk to my dad or talk to my mum or just like not really talk to me, which is interesting. But I was just lucky. Like I wanted to buy somewhere to live initially. I kind of knew the area around where my parents lived like pretty well, like that part of Perth really well because I'd grown up there. I'd been to home opens there. I kind of knew it anyway. Saw the apartment. It was during COVID, during the first lockdown. So no one really was wanting to buy there. So I got a pretty good deal and just bought it. I had a deposit saved up and I didn't know what I wanted to do with it back then, but it kind of just all lined up and worked out well.
And you negotiated well?
They didn't let me negotiate as much as I wanted because it was from the government built these apartments as part of like increasing the density in suburbs without apartments project.
Okay.
So they built them and then sold them off. So it was a good deal because no one else was really wanting to buy them. I got like one of the better ones for like the same price as some of the worst ones, but they weren't really too good at negotiating for me.
What's your plan, like building out a property portfolio? Is that on the agenda for you now?
Yeah, definitely. Planning on buying another one. I want to set up in a trust this time. It works well, I guess, now that I have a business now as well. Being able to kind of combine the two and help it grow, that'll be amazing. But yeah, planning on buying another one and then seeing how that goes.
Will that be positively geared? Will that be the strategy?
Probably not.
No.
Not these days.
Yeah, makes
But that's
sense.
okay now because I've got like more income coming in. Like I'm in a bit more of a stable position than I was back then. Like when you're 22 and not sure what you want to do with your life, it's hard to commit to a massive mortgage. But now I kind of like know what my cash flow will be a little bit better. Someone
listening to this, right, who seeking financial independence, they don't want to be in a 9-to-5, right? Pretty uneducated around just investment. At a high level, like what are some of the steps that this person should take to start, regaining control of their life?
If we're just like assuming they like maybe have some debt, they're not sure what they're spending at all. Like first steps are to figure out where you actually are at. Like how much are you spending every week, every month? How much do you have left over? Or how much do you need to meet how much you're spending as well? What debts do you have? List all of those out and then try and figure out what your goals are as well. I find a lot of people say they want freedom or security, but like that means different things to all of us. Like it doesn't mean the same thing. And it's really hard to work towards something if you've got no idea why you want to. Is your goal to quit your job because you absolutely hate it? Is it because you want to spend more time with your family? Can you just get a nicer new job that you like a little bit more? Do you want to start a business? Like all of that varies so much and the steps are so different. But figure out where you are now and what you want. And then just like learn, find people that you relate to. Like you could listen to your stuff, listen to Jack's stuff if you're interested in property. I've got a podcast, I've got a book, listen to my stuff if you want to like learn about shares, but just like consume lots of different things and then find what interests you. It's really hard to be like, buy property or invest in shares if like someone doesn't know why they're doing that.
But like I obviously started off in property. You started in shares, right? Like how do you decide like, do I go property? Do I do shares? Like, I guess how would you go about making that call?
How much money do you have? And like, what do you want to do? Are shares more exciting? Is property more exciting? What do you know more about? Like, what do you want to do? Like, it doesn't really matter because we've kind of, like, you've gone and bought Bitcoin now. You started off in property, you bought some shares, now you buy Bitcoin too. Like, I started with shares, I bought property, now I have crypto as well. Like, you can do both, just not at all at once. So like, don't get too bogged down on shares versus property. It doesn't really matter where you start, just start.
Your book, so about, I guess, not working for the rest of your life.
Yeah, how to not work forever.
How to not work forever. I love it. I like when you see books and the titles just basically sum up the book.
Yes, what it is.
Very quickly. So that book, you co-authored it with someone else?
Yes, with Anna. She works for Perla.
Okay.
She wrote another book called Kids Ain't Cheap. She's like a financial educator.
And so, like, what is the goal for you? Like, do you want to, have you set an age for retirement or what's the plan?
No, I did back when I was younger. I wanted to have $1 million invested so I could always have 40 grand a year, either as a pay rise or to live off. Now I found I don't actually want to retire. I just want to be able to do whatever I want, which I've kind of am building outside of. I'm kind of building it now anyway. Like I work for myself. I can pick and choose what I do. I can like have the freedom. I can travel whenever I want. Like I've got a pretty cool life now. And I found that I like don't like having nothing to do. I like feeling productive. I like working towards stuff. So I don't think I want to retire. Like I have money goals. I want to have $1 million invested in shares. That's like the first one. But there's not really an age on that. It's just like get there as quickly as possible. I'll have a few properties and I'll like see what's happening.
Good on you. What about some travel hacks? So I saw you were traveling recently and like is there specific like credit cards for points or how do you kind of…
Do you have a credit card for your business stuff?
I do, for Amex, yeah.
Yeah. Do you travel with points?
Yes.
Yeah. Where did you
Always.
go recently?
I was in California last week.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Random.
So
why?
for work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's in California?
Business is expanding there, but into the US. But I went to a business event there
Yeah, okay.
in
Interesting.
Newport.
Oh, Newport. Yeah, fun. I went to Dubai recently. I like travel hacks. It's just like fun seeing how good of a deal you can get. Like sometimes I spend way too much time on it and it's probably should have just like booked the more expensive flight, but I love like just finding a good deal. I like looking at different airlines. I've got credit cards for sure. I love a good points hack. I think the best travel hack is just like earning points, but you can do that on your shopping through everyday rewards or through flybys. Just looking out for deals as well. Jetstar has holiday packages to Bali for like $600, $666 with return flights from Melbourne and 4 nights of accommodation.
That's
you
pretty good.
You kind of can't beat that. Yeah.
Do you put hotels on – do you book hotels with points?
Oh, no, don't book hotels. Just flights.
Just flights.
It's not really worth it with hotels. The core membership, that's my favorite one at the moment. It's a paid membership. I think it's $250 if you get it on special. But you get lots of like red room deals that are 50% off. So you can stay like at really nice hotels for like $100 a night.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And you get 50% off dining as well at some of their hotel restaurants.
You've got it all sorted.
I love a $15 buffet breakfast.
Dubai. What was happening in Dubai?
I just wanted to go.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I've been before. It was more my boyfriend wanted to go because he likes the whole like big buildings and like fancy things and stuff like that. But I like more beachy, resorty holidays. So that was a nice compromise because I don't really like big cities.
Could you live there?
I don't think so. Or maybe, I don't know. I find their like government is quite interesting ethically and there's lots of stuff going on and I don't know if I agree with it enough to live there. It's very flashy and very expensive. It's nice to visit. Maybe I'd like spend a few months there when it was winter in Australia or something, but I don't think I'd live there.
I was there in winter about a year ago. I was there in winter in October last year and it was so hot.
Yes.
I thought it was summer.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, it's winter. I think summer would be unbearable.
Summer, yeah. No. Oh,
No?
but it's kind of made for it. Like everything's air-conned. Yeah, I don't know.
It's nice. What about, would you live overseas for tax reasons? To minimise tax?
I don't think so. I grew up overseas, like moving around with my dad, which is great and interesting. I don't think I would do it just to minimise tax. Like my goal isn't to like spend the least amount on tax as possible. Like I think tax is a good thing to pay. I like worked in healthcare, like I understand the healthcare system. I like Australia. So I don't think I would move to minimise tax. It's also hard to kind of minimise tax unless you give up residency. Do you know more about this? Have you looked into it?
I've been slowly looking into it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not sure I'd actually relocate just to minimise tax.
No, like I like the people here. I'd love to come back here always. Like I like to travel, but I like having a base in Australia. And with everything going on in the rest of the world, it's pretty crazy sometimes. It's nice to, like Australia is great.
Do you have any books that you gift people?
Books that I gift? No, I recommend a lot of books. Not finance books. Have you read Educated by Tara Westover?
No.
That's one of my favourite books ever. It's about a girl who grows up in it's a Mormon family and she doesn't go to school or anything and then she goes to uni later on and it's like her kind of adjusting to learning what actually went on in the real world because they made up their own history books and stuff. And like that transition was quite challenging for her. That's really interesting. Another one I really like is The Uncaged Sky. You heard of that?
Oh.
A Melbourne University lecturer got imprisoned in Iran for like 800 days. So that's
Wow.
interesting. Yeah. I like those books you get to like learn about other cultures and like what's going on and like understand the thought process behind some things.
I love that. And
Yeah.
any specific business books?
No, I don't know. No, I find a lot of things are like repeated and a bit generic or not actually applicable to like the online space. Like a lot of books I read are like about building a actual physical business with like stores and different locations and stuff like that. But I feel like online businesses change and move so quickly. So I don't think so.
Outside of your capital allocation to like, let's say property, shares, etc., are you currently generating income with what you're doing online?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you doing?
So I make money from sponsored content mostly.
Okay.
So people will sponsor a video on Instagram or they'll sponsor my podcast and I'll make money that way. I made like $200,000 last financial year, which is fun.
That's
Yeah.
cool. From sponsorship?
From like all the stuff that I did, but yeah,
Good on you.
stuff. And like the book, I got paid a bit for that as well. Like all that stuff combined. I do a few like speaking things as well. Yeah.
And I noticed you've got a subscription on Instagram for
Yeah.
$4.99
I'm trialing it. Yes.
Smart.
Yes.
Thought that was good. I thought it was too cheap.
I'm trialing it though. I don't post enough there yet to charge more.
Okay.
But just trialing the feature to see if people want to pay for it.
How's
I only set it up like a month ago maybe. No, it's not making like heaps of money, but it's interesting to see who's willing to pay for stuff.
So I sell online. Like we provide an online course, a program. Then there's back-end coaching that we do as well. Have you thought about putting together a course?
Yes. One day, maybe next year.
You'd crush it.
I go backwards and forwards on it. I wanted to like know what I wanted to do first. I found like I've done so many really random things online and I felt like a bit not ready for it before, but I think maybe I am next year to build a course out. Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah. But then you really like, it's hard online. I think like if you go from content creator to then selling a course, people will like kind of come at you for it. So I have to like be ready for that full transition, I think. Do you get a lot of hate for your course or it's always just been what you've done? So it's been fine.
There's always a lot of haters.
Yes.
When I sold my last company, I wasn't exposed to that type of stuff. So when I went online this time and started like promoting, it was a bit challenging. I'd say the first maybe 18 months because there's so many trolls and so many haters.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just part of it.
It is.
And I think when you're doing something right, I feel like it comes with that.
Yeah. I feel like it's harder now because I feel like I can't try things like I used to. Like you have to be really sure about something now. Like I can't, I don't know, make a course, like talk about it and then have it not be the best thing ever that I could have made because then people will be like, it'll taint my brand a little bit. Like before I was just trying anything that I wanted and it was absolutely fine and like it didn't matter if it didn't work out. Whereas now I like feel like I have to be a bit more organized about it, which is great and like I should be. But yeah, just like there's a little bit more pressure now that there's so many people watching.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Is LinkedIn a good channel for you?
No, it's a bit professional. I'm not that professional. Like I'm not that corporate-y and it's very corporate-y.
Really?
No, I like worked in healthcare. I worked as a support worker. Like I was like working with people. I've never worked in like that corporate environment. And I find there's like, I don't know, I just don't love it. It's all a bit fake. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It like does well in terms of like getting speaking gigs and stuff like that. Like I like to network with people on there. Like I still meet people on there. Some videos do well on there, but I'm not focusing on building a full following there.
A friend of mine, he crushes it on LinkedIn. He basically supports creators, online creators, to start monetizing what they're doing because they've got these large audiences. A lot of them aren't generating a lot of income despite these, huge following they've got. They've got a great knowledge base of what they understand. Do you see that in that creator space? Like a lot of people who have this great audience, but they're not monetizing properly?
Yeah, definitely. Like I don't monetize as much as I could, definitely. Like it's really hard having a following to then go and do stuff with it. Like there's huge pressures behind it. You also don't know what you're doing. It's hard to know what to do because there's only a few people you can look up to. And I find like there's people who build online followings because they're selling like buyer's advocacy stuff or like they're a mortgage broker or things like that. But when you've like built just to create a business, it is hard to be like, okay, what's next? And there's a stigma around like being someone who sells a course or someone who sells merch and stuff like that. But yeah, I see it all the time.
I did the opposite, right? So I started selling a course and I didn't have a following, right? So like I'm kind of the opposite to you, right? And like in retrospect, thinking back, right, if I had this, how many followers you got, let's say on Instagram?
140,000?
Okay, 140K.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, if I had 140K people following me who I've got credibility with, there's trust, I feel like you got such a head start. And I
Yes.
and I get what you're saying around that stigma of like, okay, now you're selling a course. But if you've got a program that has integrity and that's going to add value, it's going to transform lives.
Yeah.
I think you're in such a great position to start
Yeah.
leveraging.
I'm glad I haven't rushed into it too much because I have had the idea to make a course. Everyone I ever talked to has been like, oh, you should make a course. Like, so everyone says that to me and they've been saying it for years and years. And I'm glad I didn't go and do it like a year in because then I probably wouldn't have grown to this size that I have now. I think there is like merit in waiting a little bit too and building that audience. And now some people have followed me for like 4 years. They trust me no matter what I say, which is amazing. But yeah, it is balancing that, like building the trust before you sell to them as well. But now I do ads for other companies, so I definitely could sell something.
Who's like your target market of people that are following?
It's mostly people between the age of 25 to 35. So they have got their first jobs, second jobs, whatever it is. They've got a bit of surplus income and they want to learn how to invest.
What's your thoughts around the 9-to-5 employment world? Like, is that something like, obviously you've been there, you've come from that. You're obviously now very independent, doing your own thing. What do you think about it? Like, do you feel like it's, I mean, I know some people prefer it, some people aren't built to do their own thing, but I feel like we're kind of programmed. You go to school and that's the thing. Maybe schools change a bit. So I'm a bit older than you, but like, I feel like you go to school and then the next logical step is to maybe just study something, college or go to university, do something and then go work for someone. I don't feel like there's a focus on like build your own thing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of changing a little bit, not at school, but just like a lot of kids, you ask them what they want to do these days and they want to be a YouTuber. Like that's becoming more of a thing. Yeah, It's not like an astronaut or police officer anymore. It's like a YouTuber. So more people are seeing like the creator-led stuff and wanting to do that. But no, the world doesn't set you up to do that. It is like go to uni, get a job, work in your job forever. I really enjoyed having a job. Like I liked working as part of a team. I liked having a boss. I liked being able to go home and not think about work. When you work for yourself, you think about it all the time. It's really hard to switch off. There's so much pressure to do more stuff. It's hard like having to make your own path and not just knowing like I tick off my tasks and then I go home and then I'm all good. Maybe I really liked my jobs and I never had like a really toxic job, so I haven't seen the toxic side to it. I think there's a place for both. Like I think 9-to-5s can help you then build your own thing if you want to. I think we don't all want to have our own thing. We don't all, like if you've got kids and you don't want to stress about it and you just want to go to work and go home, that's amazing. But yeah, I think there's going to be more portfolio careers in the future. Have you seen that kind of trend pop up? It's like more freelancers where you do multiple different things. It's kind of what I've done. Like I've always had a job but then done things on the side or have multiple jobs. So instead of just like working 9-to-5 at a bank or whatever it is, you work 2 days at one job and 3 days at another. And then you have like something you do on the side for extra money as well. And building out those kind of careers, I think that will grow in popularity for sure.
That's interesting. We were talking before we started about, remote working. You're obviously fully remote. Yeah, like how do you go? Because I mean, I've struggled with working remote, right? Just not having that tribe, that community. What do you do to fill that void?
Yeah, I definitely like miss going to an office and like hearing the office drama and you're like, oh, this is fun. Yeah, it's just like it takes a lot more work to create that community intentionally. And it's good because you do hang out with people you want to hang out with. You can build people around you that like value the same things that you do. I've enjoyed in-person podcast recordings for my podcast. That's been really good to build that structure. I've got friends who do similar things to me. So like this weekend, my friend and I did a workshop together in Sydney on Friday, and then we spent the weekend up in the Gold Coast for our friend's business launch workshop that we all met through social media. So that's been great fun. But day to day, it can be quite lonely when you're like, oh, I'm home by myself again, which is fine. But yeah, it is hard there's always like the grass is always greener, I guess. And I would like people around me, but then I also like having the freedom of working remote as well.
Since going online, have you found like your network has really expanded just based on, opportunity of people reaching out? And
definitely. It's been amazing. Yeah. Like when you talk about what you enjoy and you kind of put yourself out there, like I've made my boyfriend now, I met him online. He does similar stuff. My best friend now, she does similar stuff to me as well. I have being friends with people who run all these cool companies. I never would have had access to people like this before. Like I never thought I would write a book until all my friends around me started writing books. And I was like, okay, everyone's done it now. It's like the next step. Not everyone, but yeah, it's definitely expanded who I've gotten to talk to in terms of like sponsors as well. I work with like Virgin, the airline, which is crazy.
Wow.
Pearl is one of my ongoing sponsors. I know their team really well. Like I text the CEO quite often. Like that's amazing. I never would have gotten that unless I'd kind of put myself out there.
Hobbies outside of, doing what you do, like what do you like to do?
They've kind of dropped off a little bit. I go to Pilates a lot. I like to go to the beach a lot. I like to read. I've read like 65 books so far this year. Yeah, I love a good like thriller, horror thriller, psychological thriller. They're quite fun. I like to wakeboard. I don't do that as much anymore. I like scuba diving, free diving. I love all the beach, ocean stuff.
I love that.
Yeah.
Out of those 65 books, any business books?
No. No. I love a good fiction book because I find you learn so much through fiction as well in terms of like empathy and putting yourself in other people's shoes. And I feel like the world is missing that a lot these days. And like I learn, like my whole life is like business and social media and finance stuff. And like I'm around people who talk about their business. Like I talk about people's businesses all day with them. Like I hear about it so much. I don't really want to read a business book at the end of the day too.
Do you find social media draining?
Yes.
What do you do to like, because I struggle with it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't online, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I sold my last company in 2018, I didn't have a Facebook account. It was deactivated. So I had to get back onto Facebook. And that was like a whole process, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't on Instagram really. And so like I noticed my mental state change just because you're looking at so much stuff.
Yeah.
And now I have to try and just, I don't know, navigate it. Like what do you do if you've got specific times of the day that you?
No, I'm really bad with it at the moment because everything's like, oh, I'm researching or like, oh, I have to post this. Like it is hard to like go and do something for work and then you just end up scrolling. I'm not the best person to ask now, but I've got a friend who has a social media phone and a regular phone and that seems like a great idea.
Ooh.
Yeah, and the social media phone doesn't have a SIM card in it, so she has to like hotspot it intentionally and creating that like friction keeps her off it quite a bit.
I like that.
And now she knows like whatever that time is on that phone, it's like you spent 2 hours on Instagram, that's like actually been Instagram time, which has been good. So that's a good idea, having like better boundaries around not checking it in the morning, putting it away, just turning it off. But no, I'm not doing that at the moment. Definitely something to work on.
Have you got a marketing like team, whether it's like social, like helping you with what you do with your content, etc.?
Not my personal stuff, but for the podcast, yes. We have someone who does like reels and scheduling and stuff like that. We've got like a podcast editor. He does everything for us there. We've got someone kind of doing like a bit of strategy for us too, but no, it's mostly been, my stuff is mostly just me still.
Good on you. That's impressive.
Yeah.
2025, what's happening for you?
Fun stuff. I'm going to Kenya and to Uganda. I want to hike with the gorillas. That's happening in February. That's exciting.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I just want to build a routine. I've kind of been like bouncing around everywhere. I've done so many trips this year, like so many fun things have happened. I got on the Forbes list, which is really exciting, the 30
congrats.
and 30. Yeah, it's like there was lots of events for that. Like the podcast is doing really well, so I'm traveling for lots of guest interviews. It's just been chaotic. So next year I just want to have a better routine and not say yes to everything, I don't think.
Traveling so much, like next year, are you planning on doing like more than 2 trips?
Yeah.
How do you like balance that out with everything that you're doing with your content? Like, do you find that you need to get like well prepared before you travel?
No, I'm not. I would love to be more prepared, but I'm not. I find like good content is very intuitive and it follows what's happening online. It's not too pre-planned. If I plan stuff, I feel like you might have like missed the mark slightly or it doesn't follow what's done well. So I kind of make content as I go. Sometimes I try and have like a few backup ones, but not usually. But my content's all about like my life and what I do. So if I travel, it can be like what I spent on my trip or like travel hacks. That's what I did when I was in Dubai. But no, I'm not that organized. I just like make it work. You can make anything work if you want to.
Do you diarise time for like content ideation, creation in your?
No, not properly. I just leave time to be bored. Like if I have a full day at home by myself with no one around and I've got nothing on, I'll make good content.
I love that.
Yeah. If I tell myself I have to make content, I will just be like, I can't do it. Like I don't have a good idea. Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. But if I'm just like sitting on my floor and I've got nothing else to do and nothing else to think about, then that's when I make the best content, which is why traveling can be hard because then I'm doing so much stuff. But if I try and just leave those days at home, it's good.
And that's incredible. I would have thought that you would be someone who would just spend time and prepare your content.
No, I'm very unprepared usually. No. I kind of have like a list of ideas and stuff like that I just write in my notes out whenever I think of something because like life can be content these days. But no, I won't make it unless it's time to make it.
Do you like bookmark, save like content that inspires you? Like whether it's design, whether it's something like, are you that type of person that?
I'll send it to myself, but I'll rarely look back at it unless it's like a recipe. It's like my notes app in my phone. It's just chaotic in there, but I'll have like ideas list for the week or whatever. And it'll be all the random things that I've seen that I might make content out of. And then sometimes I'll go back to it, sometimes I won't, but mostly if I'm like scratching for an idea because I haven't posted for 2 days or whatever it is.
Does your phone get blown up with like messages and Insta?
Yeah, but my notifications are off for most things.
But do you get back to everyone?
No. Definitely not. No, there's too many people who message and a lot of it is too hard to answer. Like people will send me their full-on personal situations and I can't give personal advice. I also just don't have time to like respond to every single person, unfortunately. I try to respond to like the nice messages and I respond to comments when I can, but no, like there's a lot of people and like, yeah, it's a lot.
Have a lot of like business opportunities came past your desk, like people who might have an existing business, for example, and obviously see opportunity with whether it's joint venture or something and they reach out to you and like, hey, Tash, let's do something.
Yeah, my podcast is a joint venture with Perla, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's been good because they've been funding it. So I didn't have to pay for like studio hire or editors or stuff like that up front, which is amazing.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I've worked with Pearler for 4 years, like the whole time I've been on Instagram pretty much. So I was happy to do that with them. But yeah, I get like random offers all the time. Most of them are just like probably not worth it. But yeah, people reach out all the time for stuff.
Did Pearler reach out to you originally 4 years ago?
Yes, yeah, they did.
Wow.
That was when I was like one of their beta, however you say that, testers back in the day, because I like actually liked their platform, and we've like been working together the whole time.
And they obviously just saw like the talent opportunity with you, and
yeah, they picked well, I guess.
They did very well.
Yes.
Well, Tash, thank you so much for jamming with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me in this very cool studio.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, congratulations. I really like what you're doing and what you're sharing and just how you're creating impact. So well done.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.